I just thought we'd have a quick look at the solar panel lifter in a little bit more detail and discuss why I've built a solar panel lifter. What's the reason behind it, and why I've gone to the extent and the engineering challenge of doing it. And the basics are relatively straightforward. The solar panel lifter itself, if we look at an example here, right, hopefully you can see that, and we look at the sun, path of the sun, on say the summer solstice, which is the 21st of June, and that represents the path of the sun on the summer solstice. That wrong one, that one. Now this one will represent the path of the sun on the winter solstice. Happens to be the 21st of December. Okay, so there's the path of the sun on the 21st of June, and there's the path of the sun on the 21st of December. Okay, let's take two times. One is 9 o'clock in the morning, and the other one is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. What we end up with is a sort of a rectangle there. See that? That'd be easy with a finger. So that, 9 o'clock in the morning, this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That represents the summer solstice, that represents the winter solstice, and you end up with this sort of rectangle, which is called your solar window. Now, I'm not going to go into any more detail than that because there's more people, or lots more people on the internet, eminent people who can talk to you about this until the cows come home. But that's the basics of it. The other thing to note is you're not going to get a maximum power from the sun unless you are perpendicular to the sun. In other words, the sun is here and you're 90 degrees to your panel. So that's the idea, the reasoning behind the solar panel lifter. Now, there's a couple of complexities with this solar panel lifter. One is the fact that I wanted to automate it. I could have just put a stick under it, like perhaps most people would have done. But where's the fun in that? What I'm using here is something called a linear actuator, and basically that represents the two of them shown here. One's at one angle and one's at the other. But essentially, one of these is a linear actuator, and that is the fulcrum point, the pivot point at one end of the unit. That is the pivot point, fulcrum, at the other end of the unit. Now this one here represents the fulcrum with the lifter or the linear actuator fully closed. This point here is the same point, but that is representing the linear actuator with the rod extended, and the difference between that and that is 300 mil. So it basically is like a plunger. You run a small motor and it extends, so it goes from that to that. Now the clever bit is working out at what point all of these come together. This picture here, there's the base, that bit there. This bit is representing that bit closed, and this bit here is representing the same bit open. what I needed to achieve, if I can find him, there he is that needed to be between 30 and 40 degrees, to about there. As you can see, that's representative of 40 degrees. Right, so I just happen to know it had to be 40 degrees because of my solar window. So looking at this, I need to know where to fit the linear actuator, or at least the pivot points, the fulcrum for the linear actuator. So what I've done, I've got two circles. One circle represents the position from there to there, which is the linear actuator in a fully closed position, which is the point at which it is fully down. I need to get that on that, get on the right point, there, like so. Okay, then this one represents the linear actuator with it fully open, and I'm going to pop that on this point there, which is exactly the same point as that, but one is in the closed position, one's in the open. It's the same bit. As we can see, we get an intersection there. Right, so what I'm going to do is take one of these and move it a little bit closer so I can sort of envisage where it's going. Just pause for a second while I press my escape key, and I'm going to move this a little bit closer. This one, up it there, slide him onto there. No, it doesn't happen to be too far away, does it? I can pull him a little bit further across by doing that. Right, so essentially, okay, this line's a little bit low, which means it'll go up once that's at full extent. It will go up a little bit further than 40 degrees, which gives me a little bit more overhead. But I'm happy with that, basically. So, at that point, it's going to show me my positions of the linear actuators. Which is there. And that falls pretty much bang on. That's close. That's close. It would go up slightly further, up to about here, giving me 43, 44 degrees, something like that. So I'm absolutely happy with that. So that's the reasoning behind having the linear actuator driving the solar panel. The other reasoning is that I'm going to be using the van probably in January and February, and I'm going to need to elevate the panel to get the maximum from the sun. In the summer you can sort of get away with it, but when it's winter, A, you're going to be using slightly more power, and B, you need to lift your panel so you can see it, to maximise that winter sun. I hope that makes some sort of sense. So I'll give you a little bit of more information on the solar panel lifter, and we'll see how we get on there. Thank you for watching. And that's a switch there, the solar panel lifter, up for up and down. Yeah, you guessed it. You're going down right now. them on the hinges. Just a normal hinge. There's nothing special about it, particularly not the welding. And here's the solar panel. Here you can see an example of 21 by 41 on the top here, and 41 by 41 on the bottom. So I built this out of. Don't look too close to the welding, I am no welder. But that is something called Unistrut, and it's used extensively in industry. I've used it on both sides of the van. It's a lot cheaper than buying manufactured rails, and it's very useful stuff, quite strong. Once you've spotted it, if you don't know where it is, you'll see it in all sorts of places. It's very interesting stuff. You get all sorts of bracketry and stuff for it. I've chosen to weld it in this case, just to keep the weight down. So here's an example of a zebedee. You see there's a spring on the bottom, which that compresses, goes into the unistrut, fits in there. You can also see the shape of it is quite important. It allows it to go into the unit and twist in that direction, which is the direction that you would tend to screw into something. But it allows it to come out again, but it won't go past there. So once it gets to that point, it locks. This is a 6mm example. They also do 8mm, 10mm, 12mm, depending on what you're doing. And they are extremely useful. So the equipment is called Unistrut. Comes in two sizes, 41 by 41 and 41 by 21. Used quite exclusively or extensively, should I say, in industry. But yeah, excellent stuff. There's the circuit. I don't know how much of that you can see, to be fair. Yeah, you can sort of see that. Okay, so that's the back of the solar panel lifter. I'll pop a circuit diagram in so you can just see it. Another little change here. The old, or original should we say, solar panel charger, or solar charger, it died. It went bang. It wanted to charge my battery at 16.9 volts, which I was not having. So I bought this one to 13 amperes. It's running at 13.8, which is all good. Just to finish off a little bit of video here, this is the 12 volts coming into the switch which controls the motor actuator that lifts the solar panel. As you can see, the relatively straightforward diagram. It is relatively straightforward. Now, we're talking about here is polarity. You've got a positive and a negative coming off the battery, and this switch here, it's a center off, so in one direction it puts positive to that one, negative to that one, and if you turn it central off and then to the other one, you put positive to this one and negative to that one. Now, we all know about polarity and crossing polarity, and we don't do it generally. The thing is, with polarity, it comes down to the device itself. And the device itself, if it's an LED light of some description, then you cross the polarity and smoke's going to come out. And as we all know, if you let the smoke out of electronic devices, they don't work anymore. So, it depends on the device. An electric motor, a DC electric motor, if you put the polarity on in one direction, the motor will rotate in one direction. If you reverse the polarity, an electric motor will reverse direction. So you have to know what you're dealing with. In this case, the linear actuator is simply an electric motor. It has got automatic stops at the top and at the bottom, so you can drive it as far as it wants to go and it will just stop, and that's all the way up and all the way down. So I hope that clarifies that, and I'll pop this on the end of the video and we'll get this one out there so we can hopefully get a few more of these things up and running. Quite interesting little project. Thank you.